Mercedes' bombshell apology letter to their fans shocked us, and looking at our comment section, it shocked many of you as well. So many of you responded with disbelief, and a lot of you called it out as a terrible move by the team and Toto Wolff. What hasn't surprised us and won't surprise you is that the F1 media has responded in the exact same way. Today, we're bringing you all the reaction to Mercedes' big blunder, and look at where they go from here, including what Hamilton's future might hold. So don't go anywhere. I think to start this video off, we have to start with Toto Wolff, who is definitely the one behind this letter. No team or company anywhere in the world would release something like this without the approval of the boss. This wasn't just some PR intern's weekend homework. We may never know why Toto decided to release this statement, and even if he did try to explain it, it probably won't make any sense. We've all done something that seemed like a good idea at the time, but then you try to explain it afterwards and you just can't get the explanation to make sense. Toto has been incredibly successful during his time in Formula 1, but this is new ground for him. Wolff joined the Formula 1 world in 2009, making him a baby compared to the rest of the paddock's team bosses. He did so by buying shares in Williams and joining the board of directors, before being named as executive director in 2012. A very important job, but not one that gets you involved in the nitty-gritty day-to-day work of running a Formula 1 team. In 2013, he bought a third of the Mercedes F1 team and started selling off his shares in Williams. He spent the year as the team's executive director. Then, when Ross Brawn left at the end of the year, he took over as team principal and carried on with the role of CEO. So when he took over at the start of 2014, he came into a team that had been managed by one of the greatest F1 minds ever, Ross Brawn. The technical work of building the new regulation of cars was already done, as was the work on the new V6 hybrid engine that is credited with Mercedes' early domination in the era. As a man with no experience running the day-to-day of an F1 team, it was the perfect environment. He didn't have to fight fires from the get-go. He could just let the team do what they do best. They outdeveloped the paddock to 8 Constructors' Championships and 7 Drivers' Championships in a row, but the foundations for that success predate Toto. Don't get me wrong, Toto is obviously an incredibly intelligent man, and by all accounts he's a good leader. You don't get as rich as Toto is without being the most intelligent man in the room 99.9% of the time. But leadership isn't tested on calm seas, it is tested during the storms, and Mercedes' ship looks to be springing leaks left, right and centre. It took just one qualifying session for Wolff to state that the team had pursued the wrong development path with the W14, and ordered sweeping changes to the car after describing race day in Bahrain as one of the worst days of racing. Former team owner Eddie Jordan, now known for his punditry work, knows the Formula 1 world as well as anyone. His team, Jordan Grand Prix, saw every side of Formula 1. He gave Michael Schumacher his debut. His team were race winners and championship contenders for one season, before basically going bankrupt and having to sell the team. That team is now Aston Martin, by the way. With that kind of CV, Eddie has experienced the worst of Formula 1 and was less than impressed by Toto's behaviour. Jordan said of Wolff, "He's the CEO, he's the boss, the buck stops with him. This is happening under his watch. To blame or criticise anybody in his design team is actually disingenuous. It's really crass. I hate to hear that because he must be a man, stand up and take it on the chin, and say, my team, my people, we failed to get the job successfully done at this moment. However, there are times ahead that we're looking forward to, and we will be much stronger than we were in 2022. I think Toto is strong enough, big enough and man enough to front this up and actually sort it out. This is an angle we didn't fully go into in our video about the letter itself, but if you want to see what we had to say about the letter, go check out our video on it after watching this one. It's hard not to agree with Eddie Jordan. This is Wolff's team. He can't just blame the other people in it for the problems with the car. At the end of the day, it's his responsibility to make sure the team does the best possible job. Perhaps Toto feels he needs to apologise to the fans for failing his job. There is a term called engineering pride in Formula 1. Top teams quite often have engineering pride, meaning they refuse to copy other teams, or at least they won't admit they are doing it. Toto seems like a very proud man, and with his lack of technical background, he might not have been able to see that the Mercedes concept was limited. Instead of looking elsewhere for inspiration, Mercedes were too proud to accept that another team could have found a better solution to the regulations than them. Toto definitely seems like a proud person to me, so this is very believable. This engineering pride is evidenced by Toto himself. Wolff has said that Mercedes hit all of their development goals over the winter, so this car is exactly what they were aiming for over the winter. Mercedes may have assumed that the other teams did not have much space in their concepts for further improvements. Perhaps they thought that the potential peak performance of their concept was the same as the other teams, and therefore assumed that others could only find a small amount of lap time. The reality, though, is that the rest of the grid are using concepts with far higher ceilings than Mercedes. They were just too proud to realise. It isn't just Toto Wolff that's been publicly calling out his team, though. Star driver Lewis Hamilton has as well. The 7-time world champion complained before the race in Bahrain that Mercedes were a long way off fighting at the front, while he also raised doubts over the team's car concept for 2023. Hamilton claimed Mercedes ignored him over the development of their W14 Challenger after he raised issues about the team's troubled predecessor. Asked if he was surprised that Hamilton called out the team publicly, F1 pundit Martin Brundle told the Sky Sports F1 podcast, "A little bit, but quite clearly Lewis feels he's not getting enough traction just chatting to them. He obviously feels they're not paying attention and he's had to go public with it. It is highly unusual because he's always the ultimate team player, really. A driver like Lewis is not going to want to go somewhere else in a hurry, and it's not a tantrum. He's obviously felt the need to go public with something because he felt he wasn't being listened to closely enough within the team." Now, I've seen plenty of people pointing out that Lewis isn't a mechanic and doesn't know how to build a car. Obviously, that is true, but he can point out the problems to the team and offer insight into what specific characteristics need working out for the car to be fast. It isn't quite as simple as telling the engineers he needs less drag, and then having a car with less drag at the next race. If it was, teams wouldn't need hundreds of engineers to design cars. However, Brundle suggested Hamilton's criticism could be a bit of gameplay, amid negotiations with Mercedes over a contract extension. "We have to remember, Lewis is in the middle of a negotiation as well," Brundle said. "I'm 100% certain Lewis would always follow the performance and not the money, but you aren't going to turn down a big paycheck if you can get it as well. There might be some pressure at Mercedes-Benz to reduce his pay, as it were. So there's a bit of a negotiation and a bit of gameplay in this as well." Brundle says he also believes Hamilton will be tempted to try and emulate Michael Schumacher by joining Ferrari and help turn F1's most famous team back into winners. Hamilton has said numerous times throughout his career that he would love to drive for Ferrari one day. Both Ferrari drivers' contracts run out at the end of 2024, but if the chance came to have Hamilton in the car for a year, Ferrari would happily pay off either driver to get him a seat. Mercedes look like they're going to be spending the majority of this year battling to stay at the front in the midfield, behind Red Bull and Aston Martin. While doing that, they're going to be attempting to make a brand new car, and convincing Hamilton that the new car will be good enough to give him a chance at an 8th World Drivers' Championship. That's a lot for any team to juggle. I don't think Bahrain is going to be Mercedes' darkest day this season. It looks like there could be worse to come. Which is a shame because during testing, it seemed like we had a 4-way title battle on our hands, but that number seems to be down to 3 after just one race. What do you think of Eddie Jordan and Martin Brundle's comments about the Mercedes team? Let us know your opinions in the comments down below. And while you're down there, hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with everything happening in F1. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.